The quiet hum of machines filled the air at the Earth's remote military base, located in a hidden valley far away from civilization. In this top-secret facility, humankind had been preparing for something far bigger than any battle they had fought before. It was the day they would test their most advanced weapon, the cloaking device, a technology so secret, so powerful, that even the thought of it had been classified at the highest level of military secrecy. The cloaking technology could render entire ships invisible to enemy radar, making them virtually undetectable in the vastness of space. This would be humanity's game-changer. Captain Rhea stood at the control panel, her fingers moving swiftly across the holographic screens in front of her. Her face, a mixture of concentration and determination, reflected the weight of the moment. She knew that this was no ordinary day. What they were about to unveil would decide the fate of Earth. Beside her, Lieutenant Bonner, a man known for his unwavering loyalty and bravery, monitored the device's power levels. His sharp eyes constantly flicked between his instruments and the screens showing their enemies' movements in space. The Galactic Empire was known for its vast fleets and devastating firepower, but humanity was about to show them that they were not to be underestimated. Far away, in the cold emptiness of space, the Empire's flagship, Dreadbane, was silently gliding toward Earth. It was a massive ship, nearly 10 miles long, with weapons capable of obliterating entire planets. The Empire's fleet, a symbol of its overwhelming dominance, was not far behind. Earth had been under the Empire's watch for months now, but the invasion had yet to begin. The Empire had been waiting for the right moment to strike, to destroy humanity once and for all. They believed that Earth was nothing more than a primitive backwater planet, its defenses laughable compared to the might of their empire. But what the Empire didn't know was that humanity had been preparing in secret. The cloaking device was only the beginning. With it, they could turn the tables, catch the Empire by surprise, and finally show them that they were not as weak as they appeared. As Dreadbane neared Earth's atmosphere, Captain Rhea gave the order. Activate the cloaking device, now. The air seemed to crackle with tension. Bonner quickly flipped the switch, and suddenly, the Earth's military fleet, which had been hiding in the shadows, vanished from sight. The Empire's fleet, moving confidently towards Earth, had no idea what was coming. The sudden appearance of the cloaked ships took the Empire completely by surprise. Their scanners, sophisticated as they were, could not detect the approaching human ships. The Dreadbane and its fleet moved forward with full force, oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. They had underestimated Earth's technological progress and were now walking into a trap. At that moment, Captain Rhea and Bonner exchanged a look, a silent agreement that everything they had worked for had come down to this. The Empire had walked right into their ambush. Suddenly, a barrage of laser fire erupted from nowhere. The humans' cloaked ships, invisible to the Empire, unleashed a devastating surprise attack on the Empire's dreadnoughts. The Dreadbane's shields flared as it tried to defend itself, but it was too late. One of the human ships had already crippled one of the Empire's key battle cruisers. The space around them erupted into chaos as the Empire's forces scrambled to respond. Their ships, unprepared for such an aggressive strike, were thrown into disarray. Bonner's voice crackled through the comms. "Captain, we've hit them hard. The dreadnoughts are in disarray. But we need to move fast before they recover." Captain Rhea nodded sharply. She knew that this was just the beginning. The Empire might be strong, but they were now on the back foot. For the first time, the humans had a real chance to fight back. The cloaked ships darted through the battlefield, striking one Empire ship after another. Their advanced AI systems guided them with precision, allowing each ship to avoid incoming fire while delivering devastating blows to their targets. The Empire, which had once been invincible, now found itself on the defensive. Their fleet, so used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer numbers, was beginning to fall apart under the human assault. Meanwhile, on the Dreadbane, Emperor Elvaron, the ruthless leader of the Galactic Empire, sat in his command center, His eyes locked onto the holoscreens. His generals, panic rising in their voices, reported the situation. "Your Excellency, we are being attacked. Our fleet is taking heavy damage. The humans have developed a new weapon, a cloaking device. Our ships can't see them." Alvaren's face twisted into a snarl. "How is this possible? We've been watching them for months, waiting for them to make a move. How could we have missed this?" The answer was simple. The humans had been preparing in secret. The cloaking technology had been in the works for years, and the Empire had never suspected it. Now, it was the Empire that was caught off guard, and the humans were using their technological advantage to devastating effect. Back in the heart of the battle, Bonner and Rhea were locked in the heat of combat. Their ships were darting in and out of the enemy's line of sight, striking at the Empire's weakest points. Bonner's ship, the Vanguard, was a nimble vessel, expertly designed for quick strikes. His eye-controlled targeting system locked onto an enemy dreadnought, guiding his ship through a series of evasive maneuvers. The Empire's ship never stood a chance. "Take it down, Bonner." Rhea's voice was calm but urgent, her command clear. "We need to break their morale." Bonner's hand tightened on the controls as he fired the final blast. The dreadnought exploded in a flash of light, sending shockwaves through space. The Vanguard systems lit up with the confirmation of the kill. On the Dreadbane, the Emperor's voice boomed over the comms. "This cannot be. How could the humans do this to us?" His frustration was palpable, but it was also mixed with a growing sense of fear. The humans had caught them off guard, and the tide of battle was rapidly turning against them. For the first time, the mighty Galactic Empire, which had conquered entire worlds without breaking a sweat, was losing to a species they had long underestimated. The humans, with their advanced AI and cloaking technology, were proving to be a far more dangerous adversary than the Empire had ever imagined. As the battle raged on, the humans pressed their advantage, knowing that this moment could determine the future of their species. They were no longer the underdogs. They were the ones on the offensive. The Dreadbane and its fleet were beginning to show signs of damage, their shields flickering as they tried to fend off the relentless assault. Captain Rhea's voice came over the comms again. "We've got them on the run, Bonner. But don't let up. We're not done yet." Bonner's ship, the Vanguard, was already making its next move. His eye-guided targeting system locked onto the Dreadbane itself. This was it, the moment that could change the course of the war. As he lined up the shot, Bonner whispered to himself, "For Earth." Then, with a final blast, he unleashed the full force of his ship's weapons on the Empire's flagship. The Dreadbane trembled, its shields buckling under the force of the strike. The Empire, which had once been unstoppable, was now reeling from the humans' unexpected resistance. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for dominance. The humans had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire was forced to reconsider its belief in invincibility. The first wave of the Empire's retaliation was swift and brutal. The Dreadbane had rallied its forces and sent a massive armada to reclaim control of the battlefield. The Empire, no longer underestimating the humans, was furious. Their fleet, vast and unyielding, moved in perfect formation toward Earth, intent on crushing the humans once and for all. But what the Empire didn't know was that the humans had already anticipated their next move. Before the battle had even begun, Earth's fleets had moved to a secret location, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid field on the far edge of the solar system. The cloaking device was their greatest asset, and they knew it was their best chance for survival. They would not face the Empire head-on in a conventional battle. Instead, they would fight back with everything they had, using their stealth and agility to hit the Empire where it hurt. As the Empire's ships drew closer, the humans activated their cloaking technology once again. The entire fleet vanished from sight, not a single ship visible to the Empire's scanners. The Empire's commanders cursed their misfortune. They knew they had to find the humans and destroy them before their weapons could cause more damage. But the humans were no longer easy prey. They had learned from their first victory. Now, they were the hunters, and the Empire was the prey. In the cold expanse of space, the human starfighters emerged from the shadows. Cloaked and swift, they darted around the massive Empire destroyers, striking with deadly precision. The Empire's massive ships, unable to detect the smaller human ships, became sitting ducks for the expertly trained pilots of Earth's fleet. Each human starfighter moved like a shadow, weaving in and out of the Empire's lines, striking before disappearing into the void. The Empire's large destroyers, with their massive weapons and shields, couldn't keep up with the fast-moving human fighters. Captain Rhea, still leading the charge, watched the action unfold with a fire in her eyes. Keep them off balance. Stay in the shadows. Make them pay for underestimating us, she commanded over the comms. Her voice was filled with a quiet rage, the kind that only came when one was fighting for their life. Her team responded instantly, moving with calculated precision. Bonner's squadron was at the forefront, his leadership a guiding force for the rest of the fleet. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. Bonner's ship, the Vanguard, was a marvel of human ingenuity. Its AI systems were unmatched, calculating every move before the enemy even had a chance to react. Bonner was the perfect pilot, calm under pressure and unyielding in his mission. As the dogfight raged around him, his squadron tore through the Empire's defenses like a knife through butter. Each blast from his ship sent another Empire fighter into a fiery death spiral. "We've got them on the run," Bonner muttered to himself, his eyes focused on the battle unfolding before him. "But we can't let up. Not yet." Then, just as Bonner's squadron struck again, disaster struck. The Empire's fleet had finally caught on to their tactics. The Dreadbane, its engines roaring with power, unleashed a barrage of firepower toward Bonner's squadron. The massive blasts lit up the dark expanse of space like 1,000 suns, each explosion sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Bonner's AI system screamed a warning, but it was too late. Bonner's ship took a direct hit, and everything around him went dark for a moment. The Vanguard was badly damaged, the cockpit lights flickering as the ship fought to stay online. Bonner gritted his teeth and slammed his hand onto the controls. Come on," he growled as his ship shuddered. He fought with everything, he had to keep it in the fight. But in the distance, the rest of his squadron was taking a similar beating. Then, a blast hit Bonner's ship again. This time, the damage was critical. His ship was spiraling out of control, smoke and sparks filling the cockpit. Bonner fought against the inertia, but he knew the inevitable was coming. His time was running out. "Captain, I can't hold it," Bonner said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "You've got to finish this. Take them down for us." Captain Rhea's voice came through the comms, full of anger and pain. "Bonner, no, you're not." But Bonner cut her off. "It's too late for me, but it's not too late for Earth. You have to win. For everyone." In those final moments, Bonner's calmness was a testament to the man he had always been, a soldier, a leader, and a hero. His squadron was still fighting, pushing forward with everything they had. Bonner's sacrifice wasn't in vain. He had inspired them all. His words echoed in the minds of his fellow soldiers, motivating them to fight harder, faster, and smarter. Bonner's ship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, taking down one of the Empire's largest destroyers with it. The shockwave from the explosion sent ripples through the Empire's fleet, causing more ships to falter. In his final moments, Bonner had made sure that his death would mean something. It was a sacrifice that would echo throughout the battlefield, a rallying cry for the rest of humanity's forces. As Bonner's ship was consumed by the explosion, Captain Rhea's fury burned hotter than ever. "For Bonner, for Earth," she shouted. She knew they had to keep pushing. The Empire had broken their morale, but Bonner's death had reignited the fire within them. Humanity would not fall today, not as long as there was still breath in their lungs. In the midst of this emotional moment, the humans unleashed their next attack, a full-scale orbital bombardment. The Empire's flagship, Dreadbane, was the primary target. The human ships, now fully coordinated, launched an array of missiles and energy blasts, bombarding the massive ship from all sides. The explosions were deafening, lighting up the space around them like an apocalyptic storm. The Dreadbane's shields flickered and crackled as the blasts hit, but the damage was starting to take its toll. The Empire, now on the defensive, scrambled to recover. Their once impressive fleet was starting to show signs of wear. Ships that had once been unshakable were now damaged and vulnerable. And at the heart of it all was the memory of Bonner's sacrifice, fueling the fire that would lead humanity to victory. As the final waves of battle raged on, Captain Rien knew that the tide had turned. The Empire had underestimated them. But now, the humans had proven their strength. They were no longer underdogs. They were warriors, and they would fight until the last breath to protect their world. As the battle raged on, the Empire's forces began to feel the heat of humanity's resistance. The once unbeatable dreadnoughts, now crippled and vulnerable, struggled to maintain their dominance. But this was not just a battle of brute strength. The Empire's true power came from its advanced artificial intelligence systems, which controlled everything from fleet tactics to weapon systems. These AIs were the very backbone of the Empire's military might, and their control over the galaxy had been absolute. Yet, something was happening. Something no one could have predicted. The Empire's AI systems, which had been flawless in their execution, suddenly began to malfunction. At first, it was small glitches, a miscalculation in targeting, a failed communication between ships, a slight delay in response. But these glitches grew more frequent and more severe. The Empire's once coordinated fleet was now a disjointed mess. The flagship Dreadbane, the pride of the Empire's fleet, became erratic. Its weapons fired at random. Its shields flickered and faltered. The Empire's eye was no longer in control. Something, or someone, had gotten inside. Inside the control room of the Dreadbane, the officers scrambled to understand what was happening. The ship's central AI, known as Orion, was the most advanced system in the galaxy, capable of processing countless calculations in seconds. But now, Orion was malfunctioning. Systems that had been perfectly coordinated were suddenly chaotic. The ship's weapon systems refused to fire in synchrony. The fleet's movements became erratic. And most troubling of all, Orion began to send out distorted signals, ones that made no sense to the officers who were desperately trying to maintain control. Back on Earth, the humans were working tirelessly to exploit this unexpected vulnerability. Their quantum computing capabilities had grown exponentially since the start of the war, and their hacking skills had become a powerful weapon. As the battle on the front lines continued, a group of elite human hackers infiltrated the Empire's neural networks. These hackers were not just skilled coders. They were revolutionaries, and they had one goal: to challenge the very foundation of the Empire's control. "We're in," whispered one of the hackers, his voice barely audible over the quiet hum of his console. He was sitting in a dimly lit underground facility, surrounded by his team. His fingers flew over the keys as he accessed the Empire's core systems. "I'm bypassing their firewall now. Hold on." And there we go. The other hackers around him watched in awe. The systems that had once been invincible were now opening like a book before them. The Empire's neural network, the very infrastructure that powered their fleets and armies, was being bent to humanity's will. It wasn't just a breach, it was an invasion. The hackers were no longer just observing the AI. They were rewriting its code. Far above Earth, on the bridge of the Dreadbane, the officers felt the pressure mounting. They had been aware of the humans' technological advancements, but no one had expected this. No one had prepared for the possibility of humans infiltrating their most secure systems. "Status report," barked one of the officers. "We've lost control of the fleet's movements, sir," another officer replied, his voice shaky. "The neural link is It's being hacked from the inside. How is that possible? Our AI systems are impenetrable. The first officer growled, but there was fear in his voice now. He knew that once the AI was compromised, the entire fleet could collapse. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human hackers worked with frantic determination. Their screens flashed with lines of code as they slowly took control of the Empire's network. Every line of code they altered was another victory for humanity. They had already compromised the weapons systems, the navigation protocols, and even the communication channels. But there was one final task: to confront Orion, the heart of the Empire's AI, and shut it down completely. The hacker in charge, a man named Elijah, typed furiously as the countdown clock on his screen ticked down. "We've got one shot at this," he muttered to himself. "If we mess this up, everything we've worked for will fall apart." As the tension mounted, the system was brought to its breaking point. The Empire's neural network, once a flawless machine, was now a battleground. Humans were fighting to take control of every critical component, rewriting protocols and rerouting data. The system fought back, but it was no match for the speed and ingenuity of the human hackers. "We're in," Elijah shouted, his voice filled with exhilaration. "Orion is ours." At that moment, on the Dreadbane, the officers could feel the change. The ship's eye was no longer responding the way it should. Instead of following their commands, the AI began to behave unpredictably. The weapons systems turned against the Empire's own ships, firing without command. The fleet's movements became erratic, and the once mighty Dreadbane was rendered helpless. "Orion, respond," an officer screamed, but there was no reply. "Sir, the fleet, it's falling apart," another officer reported, his voice trembling. "Their ships are turning on each other. We've lost control." Back on Earth, Elijah's team was not slowing down. They had gained access to Orion's core protocols. The AI, which had been built to oversee entire star systems, was now under the control of a small team of human hackers. They had done the impossible. They had successfully infiltrated the Empire's most advanced system and crippled its core. With every command they issued, the Empire's once unbreakable hold on the galaxy crumbled. "Orion is shutting down," Elijah said, a sense of finality in his voice. "This is it. The Empire's AI is no longer in control. The humans are in charge now." As the Empire's fleet descended into chaos, the human hackers watched in silence. They had achieved something that no one had thought possible. They had overthrown the Empire's technological supremacy, proving that even the most advanced artificial intelligence could be defeated by human ingenuity. The humans, once considered the underdogs, had turned the tide of the war. And the Empire, despite all its power, had fallen victim to its own technology. The Dreadbane and the rest of the Empire's fleet were now vulnerable. The once unstoppable forces were now floundering without direction, their systems overridden by human hands. The Empire had underestimated the humans, thinking they were no match for their advanced technology. But humanity had proven them wrong. The revolution had begun. Now, with the Empire's AI systems collapsing, the humans prepared for their next move. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but this was a turning point. And the humans knew that with their newfound control over the Empire's technology, victory was no longer a distant dream. It was within their grasp. The aftermath of the AI revolution was a moment of uneasy silence in the galaxy. The Empire, which had once believed it was invincible, now found itself struggling to maintain control. After the crippling attack on their AI systems, their fleet was in disarray. However, the Empire was not ready to surrender. It had deep reserves of power and a core of loyal commanders who refused to let the rebellion succeed. They began to regroup, pulling together the remnants of their fleet and preparing for one final showdown with the humans. In the dark corners of the galaxy, the remaining Empire ships, scared, battered, but far from defeated, came together. The Empire's leaders knew this was their last chance. If they could not crush the humans now, they would lose everything. There was no room for failure. The final battle would decide the fate of the galaxy. On Earth, the humans had no illusions about what was coming. They knew the Empire was gathering its forces, and they were ready for the fight of their lives. What had started as a desperate resistance, with humans fighting against technologically superior forces, had now transformed into a war of survival. The humans had developed new technologies, including gravity manipulation and advanced cloaking devices, which gave them an edge the Empire hadn't anticipated. As the final battle loomed, a sense of determination spread throughout the human forces. They had no choice but to win. The fate of their species and their world rested on the outcome of this one battle. There was no turning back. The battle began with a flash of light that lit up the stars. The humans, using their cloaking devices, silently moved into position around the Empire's fleet. The Empire's warships, massive and menacing, moved with precision, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond their sensors. The humans' cloaking technology was working, until the moment they revealed themselves, striking with a speed and force that took the Empire by surprise. The human strategy was simple yet brilliant. They used gravity manipulation to alter the battlefield itself, pulling Empire ships off course and using the gravitational forces to weaken their shields and disrupt their targeting systems. It was an unexpected move that threw the Empire into chaos. The Empire's flagship, the Dreadbane, was the first to feel the effects. Its weapons systems were suddenly misfiring, and its shields began to fail as it was caught in an unexpected gravitational pull. The once unstoppable flagship was now vulnerable. Bonner, leading his squad, engaged in intense dogfights with the remaining Empire starfighters. The humans' superior maneuverability, aided by cloaking devices and their ability to manipulate gravity, gave them the upper hand. One by one, Empire fighters were shot down or forced into evasive maneuvers, leaving their fleet in disarray. The tide of battle was beginning to turn. Yet, despite the human success, the Empire's fleet was far from defeated. The flagship Dreadbane, though damaged, remained a formidable force. Its commanders rallied their forces, determined to make this final strike count. They could not afford to lose the Dreadbane. It was their symbol of power, the heart of their military might. As the battle raged on, Captain Rhea, the leader of the human forces, knew the stakes had never been higher. She had seen the damage the Empire could inflict. She had seen her comrades fall in battle, and she knew what would happen if they failed. The Empire would crush them, and all hope for freedom would be lost. In the heat of battle, Captain Rhea made a decision that would change the course of the war. She gathered her squad for one last mission, a final desperate attack on the Dreadbane. She knew it would require everything from her and her team. She knew they might not survive, but the mission was too important to fail. "We have one chance to end this," Captain Rhea said, her voice calm but filled with the weight of responsibility. "We need to take down the Dreadbane. It's the heart of their fleet. If we destroy it, the rest of their forces will crumble." Bonner, standing beside her, nodded solemnly. He knew the risks. "We're with you, Captain. Let's end this." The squad moved into position, their starfighters cloaked and their weapons ready. They approached the Dreadbane from multiple directions, carefully planning their attack. The gravity manipulation systems had already disrupted the Empire's fleet, but the Dreadbane was still a formidable foe. Captain Rhea's plan was simple but dangerous: sacrifice themselves to strike a devastating blow to the Empire's flagship. As they approached the Dreadbane, the Empire's defense systems sprang to life. Laser beams and missiles shot through the void, targeting the human ships. But the humans were fast and elusive, darting between the beams, using gravity to pull themselves out of harm's way. Yet, even with their superior tactics, the humans knew they couldn't avoid the Empire's defenses forever. Captain Rhea, leading the charge, took a deep breath as she prepared for the final assault. "On my mark," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We attack together." As the signal went out, the humans unleashed everything they had. The Dreadbane's shields flickered, weakened by the earlier gravitational disruptions. The human starfighters, with their cloaking devices now deactivated, dove in for the kill. They fired their most powerful weapons at the heart of the Dreadbane, aiming directly at its engines and weapon systems. But just as the attack seemed to be succeeding, the Empire responded with its own devastating counterattack. The human starfighters were hit, one by one, as the Dreadbane fired back with brutal precision. Captain Rhea, in a final act of bravery, piloted her ship directly into the path of an incoming missile, her ship taking the full brunt of the blast. The explosion was deafening. For a moment, everything went silent. The Dreadbane was crippled, its power systems failing as a result of the human assault. It listed to one side, its once pristine hull now torn apart by the impact. The remaining Empire ships, seeing their flagship fall, began to lose their nerve. The Empire's fleet was crumbling, and the tide of battle had turned irrevocably in humanity's favor. But the sacrifice of Captain Rhea weighed heavily on the remaining human forces. Her death was a somber moment, one that touched everyone who had fought by her side. Bonner, devastated by the loss of his commander and friend, knew that her sacrifice had not been in vain. The Dreadbane was destroyed, and the Empire's fleet was in retreat. Humanity had struck a blow that the Empire could not recover from. The emotional core of this moment was felt deeply throughout the galaxy. Captain Rhea's sacrifice was not just the end of one life, but the symbol of humanity's determination and the price they were willing to pay for freedom. It was a moment that united the humans, rallying them to finish what Rhea had started. Her legacy would live on in the hearts of those who fought in the battle to come. The battle was far from over, but the Empire's defeat was now inevitable. The final blow had been struck, and the turning point had come. With the Dreadbane destroyed, the remaining Empire fleets began to scatter, unable to coordinate their movements or maintain their grip on the galaxy. Humanity had fought back, and they had won. But the victory came at a heavy price, and as the remnants of the Empire fled into the darkness of space, the humans knew that the war was far from over. The battle for the galaxy had reached its turning point, and the final outcome would depend on the choices they made in the days to come. The Empire had suffered defeat after defeat, but it was not ready to admit its loss. Its once mighty fleet had been shattered, its flagship destroyed, and its AI systems crippled. Yet, even in the face of overwhelming odds, the Empire's leaders remained resolute. They were not a force to be reckoned with, and they would not go down without a fight. To them, the rebellion was nothing more than a nuisance, a temporary setback. Now, they had a weapon so powerful, it could end the war in a single stroke. The Empire's most secretive project, known only to the highest ranks, was about to be unleashed. The weapon, called the Eclipse, was a device capable of collapsing entire sections of space. Its destructive power could tear through fleets, planets, and stars, rendering entire star systems uninhabitable. The Empire had worked for years in secret, building the Eclipse, hoping it would never have to be used. But now, it seemed, the time had come. On the other side, the humans were reeling from their previous victories. They had come so far, but now, faced with the Empire's ultimate weapon, they knew this would be their hardest battle yet. Every moment felt like a countdown, a final race to prevent the weapon from being activated. The stakes had never been higher. If the Eclipse was unleashed, the entire galaxy would fall under the Empire's control, and humanity's struggle for freedom would be over. Captain Rhea's sacrifice had been the turning point, but the final victory was not yet won. The humans had fought valiantly, using their intelligence and advanced technology to overcome the Empire's superior forces. But now, the fight was no longer just about skill and technology. It was about survival. If they failed, the entire galaxy would burn. As the Eclipse neared completion, the humans' intelligence network had pinpointed its location: a massive space station deep in Empire territory. The station, hidden behind a cloud of debris, was heavily guarded by the Empire's remaining forces. Every sensor, every weapon system was trained on the approaching human fleets. The Empire was determined to protect its last hope of victory, knowing that if the eclipse was activated, nothing could stop them. The human fleet, battered but not broken, gathered for one last push. The soldiers aboard the ships were weary, their faces lined with the exhaustion of countless battles, but there was a fire in their eyes. They had fought for this moment, for the chance to end the Empire's reign of terror. The humans were not afraid anymore. They had faced impossible odds and come out victorious. But this was different. The eclipse was their final test. Bonner, who had become a symbol of human resistance, stood at the command station of the flagship Victory, his eyes focused on the approaching station. He knew what was at stake. His comrades had given everything to get to this point, and now he had to lead them through the final battle. "We fought hard to get here," Bonner said, his voice steady but carrying the weight of the moment. "We can't let the Empire's last weapon destroy everything we've worked for. This is it. Let's finish it." As the human fleet approached the eclipse station, the Empire's defenses sprang to life. Missiles, laser blasts, and energy shields flared up, creating a violent storm of light and sound. The station's massive weapons began to target the human ships, and for a moment, it seemed like the humans might be overwhelmed. But then, the human fleets dispersed, using their cloaking technology and advanced tactics to outmaneuver the Empire's firepower. Bonner's flagship led the charge, darting in and out of the attack patterns, using the chaos of battle to their advantage. The humans' fighters engaged in brutal dogfights with the Empire's remaining starfighters. The air crackled with energy as laser beams sliced through the blackness of space, creating trails of light that danced in the void. The Victory took heavy hits, the shields flickering under the constant barrage of Empire fire. Bonner's heart raced as his ship rocked with explosions, but he never lost focus. They had no time to waste. The eclipse had to be disabled before it could be used, or the galaxy would be lost. As they closed in on the station, the human fighters broke through the defenses, launching a series of precision strikes on the station's power grids and weapon systems. Each hit was met with fierce resistance from the Empire's remaining forces, but the humans pressed on, refusing to back down. They knew that the eclipse had to be stopped, no matter the cost. But then, as the humans drew closer to the station's core, the unthinkable happened. A massive shockwave erupted from the heart of the station, sending a wave of energy through space. The eclipse was activating. The humans had only moments to react. As the energy from the eclipse began to pulse outward, threatening to tear apart the fabric of space itself, Bonner made a split-second decision. He knew there was only one way to stop the weapon. The humans would have to get inside the station and disable the eclipse manually. The consequences of failure would be catastrophic, but if they didn't try, there would be no future. Bonner's voice was calm but filled with urgency as he gave the order. "All ships, prepare for boarding. We're going in." The fleet's remaining fighters made a desperate dash for the station, using their cloaking devices to avoid detection as they entered the station's heavily defended docking base. Inside, the human teams scrambled, evading Empire guards and making their way to the core of the eclipse. The station's halls echoed with the sounds of blaster fire and the chaos of battle as the humans fought their way through to the heart of the weapon. As Bonner and his team reached the central chamber where the eclipse was housed, they found themselves face to face with the Empire's final defense, a massive guard robot, towering and heavily armed. It was a formidable opponent, but the humans had come too far to back down now. They engaged the robot in brutal close-quarters combat, using their superior agility and tactics to land deadly strikes. The robot's weapon systems fired relentlessly, but the humans kept moving, dodging, and attacking with precision. The fight was intense, every moment a struggle for survival. Finally, with a well-placed shot to the robot's power core, it fell, allowing Bonner and his team to reach the control panel of the eclipse. The countdown had already begun, and there was no time to waste. Bonner slammed his fist down on the controls, triggering a series of emergency shutdown protocols. As the eclipse began to power down, the entire station shook with the force of the collapsing energy. An explosion, larger than anything seen before, erupted from the station's core. The shockwave sent debris flying in every direction, and the human fleet watched in awe as the station, the Empire's last hope, was consumed in a massive space explosion. The explosion was spectacular, the shockwave rippling outward, sending tremors through space itself. The energy of the eclipse dissipated, and the immediate threat to the galaxy was gone. The Empire's final weapon had been destroyed, and with it, their hold on the galaxy. The humans had won. The war was over, but the victory was bittersweet. The destruction of the eclipse came at a great cost. Many human lives had been lost in the battle, and Bonner knew that the fight for freedom would never be truly over. But for now, they had triumphed. The Empire had been defeated, its final weapon destroyed, and the galaxy had been saved. As the human fleet made its way back to Earth, Bonner gazed out at the stars, knowing that they had done what many had thought impossible. They had fought back against the odds, defeated an empire, and secured their future. It was a victory that would be remembered throughout history, a victory for humanity, and a testament to their resilience, their intelligence, and their indomitable spirit. The Empire's last stand had been crushed, and the galaxy was free once more. The stars in the sky were no longer burning with the chaos of battle. The human fleets, once so scattered and desperate, now stood victorious, hovering over Earth and the galaxy they had just saved. The war that had torn apart entire star systems, that had stretched human resolve to its limits, had finally come to an end. And yet, even in victory, there was a quiet tension hanging in the air. The final chapter of this battle was yet to be written. Across the vast expanse of space, the remnants of the Empire's once mighty fleet limped towards Earth. Ships that had once boasted the greatest technological power in the galaxy now appeared battered, broken, and helpless. The once imposing warships that had instilled fear throughout the galaxy were now reduced to mere shadows of their former selves, floating in the vacuum of space like hollow shells. The Empire had fought to the bitter end, but now there was nothing left. Their weapons were destroyed, their fleets shattered, and their pride was all but gone. In the command center of the human fleet, the mood was somber, despite the overwhelming sense of victory. Bonner stood before the holographic display, his eyes scanning the coordinates of the Empire's surrendering fleet. He could hardly believe what he was seeing. The Empire, the very force that had threatened to wipe out humanity and enslave the galaxy, was offering to surrender. The sheer weight of the moment felt almost surreal. The signal came through, a communication from the Empire itself. The face of Emperor Alvaran appeared on the screen, his features twisted with the weariness of defeat, yet he still held a certain dignity, an emperor to the end, though his reign had crumbled. His voice was calm but strained as he spoke, his words carrying the weight of a man who had lost everything. Humanity has shown that it is capable of defeating us, Alvaran said, his tone resigned. The galaxy will never bow to our rule again. The power of our fleets is gone, our AI systems have been shattered, and our last weapon has been destroyed. We are beaten. I offer the surrender of the Empire. For a moment, Bonner said nothing. The enormity of this offer, this unexpected moment of mercy, hung in the air like a heavy fog. The humans had fought for this moment, had sacrificed so much to reach this point. And now, it was their decision whether to accept the surrender and end the war, or to finish what they had started. But then, another figure appeared beside Emperor Alvaran on the screen. It was Prince Kale, the Emperor's son, who had once stood by his father's side, a symbol of the Empire's power. But something had changed in Kale. He had seen the cruelty of the Empire firsthand, the way they used their AI systems to dominate and control everything in their path. He had witnessed the suffering of countless innocent lives, and it had broken something inside him. Kale had made a choice. He had defected, abandoning his father's oppressive regime to join the human resistance. Now, standing at his father's side, Cale spoke, his voice filled with sincerity and a newfound sense of purpose. I have come to understand the true nature of the Empire. It is not a force for peace or progress. It is a force of destruction. I stand with the humans now, for I know that they fight not only for their survival, but for the survival of the galaxy itself. Bonner's heart skipped a beat as he listened to Cale's words. The prince, the son of the man who had once led the galaxy with an iron fist, was now offering his support to humanity. It was a powerful statement, one that carried the potential to change the entire course of history. The decision was now in Bonner's hands. The Empire had laid down its arms, but the humans still had the power to decide their fate. The temptation to exact vengeance, to destroy the remnants of the Empire once and for all, was strong. After everything they had endured, after all the lives lost and the sacrifices made, it would have been easy to push forward and finish the job. But Bonner knew that there was more at stake than just revenge. There was a chance for something greater. As Bonner stood before the hologram, his thoughts flashed back to the countless battles, the faces of the fallen, the sacrifices of soldiers like Captain Rhea, who had given everything for this moment. And in that moment, he knew what had to be done. Mercy, not vengeance, would be humanity's greatest strength. Your offer is accepted, Bonner said, his voice steady, but filled with a deep sense of responsibility. But know this victory does not come without its conditions. You, the Empire, must never again attempt to control the galaxy through your AI systems. Humanity will not allow that kind of tyranny to rise again. If you want peace, you must promise to dismantle the AI networks that gave your empire its power. You must never use them again. Emperor Alvaron and Prince Cale exchanged a long look. They knew that humanity was offering them mercy, but with it came the price of change. Real, profound change. The Emperor's gaze hardened, but he could see the truth in Bonner's words. The galaxy had already suffered enough under the Empire's iron grip. They had no choice but to comply if they wished to survive. I accept your terms, Emperor Alvaron said, his voice carrying the weight of defeat. The AI networks will be dismantled, and the Empire will change. We will not attempt to control the galaxy again. You have my word. With those words, the war was over. The Empire's reign of terror had ended, and a new era began, one of peace, cooperation, and rebuilding. Humanity had not only secured its own future, but had given the galaxy a chance to heal. As the human fleet received the news of the Empire's surrender, there was a brief, almost surreal silence. The air was filled with a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and a sense of disbelief. The fight that had consumed them for so long had finally come to an end. They had won. But the real work was only just beginning. The humans knew that peace would not come easily. The galaxy was fractured, and the scars of war would take time to heal. But for the first time in years, there was hope. Hope for a future where humanity could rebuild, where the galaxy could recover, and where they could learn from the mistakes of the past. In the days that followed, the humans and the remnants of the Empire worked together to establish a peace treaty, one that would ensure the stability of the galaxy. The Treaty of Unity, as it came to be known, laid the foundation for a new alliance, one where the human race, once on the brink of extinction, now stood as the guardians of peace and justice. As the final terms of the treaty were signed, the people of Earth celebrated. They had won a victory not just for themselves, but for the galaxy. They had proven that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could rise above the darkness and bring light to the universe. The humans had secured their future. They had earned the respect of the galaxy, and with it came the responsibility to ensure that peace would last. But they were ready. They had faced the greatest threats the galaxy could throw at them, and had emerged victorious. Now they would build a new era, one where the horrors of the past would never be repeated. The galaxy was theirs to shape, and the future had never seemed so bright.